Alice.
Hello, good morning everyone. It's lovely to be here. Thank you very much, Baz. And it's really lovely to be following Grace from WorkSpark, because what wonderful tips she was sharing about how to support our well-being. So I'm here to talk about mental health this morning. And my aim really is to get us all to be able to chat about our well-being, talk about how we're feeling. So that's easy to do, and we can all just talk about our well-being. So I am from the Children and Young People's team at Bucks Mind, and as a mental health charity, what we do is we will not give up until everyone in the county with a mental health problem has both support and respect. So we really want to reduce the stigma around mental health. So just make it really easy for everyone to talk about their mental well-being, just as we would talk about our physical well-being. So we have lots of different services at Bucks Mind to support the community. So we have befriending services and peer support, counselling service, training for adults, lots of different wellbeing groups. So for example, gardening, yoga, art groups, and also our education service, which I'm here for today. So I'll go into schools or organisations just like this and get everyone talking about mental health. So it would be a good idea to start with, what is mental health? What do we mean by that term? And there's lots in the media and now included at school about mental health, so you might already have some idea. I've got here the definition from the World Health Organization, and it's quite wordy, but I'll read it out. So, a state of well-being in which every individual realises their own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to their community. So if we really simplify that, it's our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and how that impacts on our life. So you can see there I've got the pictures of the Inside Out characters at the bottom of the screen. And part of normal and healthy mental health is experiencing all of those different emotions. So all of us will feel sad, all of us will feel anxious, all of us will feel joy at some point, and that's completely normal and part of normal mental health. And it's being able to cope with those different emotions and make sure that they're not getting in the way of our everyday life. So we can still be productive, we can still go to school, go to work. That's part of a healthy well-being. On my graph at the bottom there, you can see that our mental health can really fluctuate. So time at the bottom, that might be just one day where we're feeling really good in the morning and we have a bit of a wobble in the afternoon. Or maybe that's over a few weeks or a few months. We're having some good days followed by some more difficult days. And again, that's completely normal. So every single one of us has mental health because we all experience lots of different emotions. And that's completely normal that we'll have a whole range of different feelings. So then what is the difference between mental health and mental illness? So as I've said there, mental health is our general state of well-being. It's our state of mind, and that includes lots of different emotions. Whereas mental illness might be something that interrupts our mental state and how we're feeling and how we think, communicate, behave. So if we look at the spectrum at the top of the screen there, we can be in the healthy or coping range, where our feelings, our thoughts, they aren't interfering with our everyday life. So we might still experience those difficult emotions, but they're not stopping us from concentrating at school, engaging in our hobbies, and still living our life to the fullest. And then we have struggling and the unwell end there. So that might be when the emotions we're experiencing are really getting in the way of our life and making it really difficult for us to carry on with our usual everyday activities. It might be that it affects our behaviour. It might be that our routines are disrupted. And that's when we might need to find some support for our mental health. So mental illnesses are common. So about 1 in 8 children and young people will have a mental illness, and that might include depression, anxiety, behaviour disorders. So if we think about the average classroom of 30 children, that would be about 3 to 4 young people with a mental illness. So it's completely common, and we just want to make sure that everyone's talking about their situation. So if they are struggling or finding themselves unwell, we can find support and help them. So just like if we had a broken hand, or we didn't feel quite well in our physical self, we would go and see the doctor. That would be exactly the same for our mental health. So we just want to make sure that everyone can go and get the support when they need it. So then, what can have an impact on our mental health? So this will be really different for everyone. So it really depends on what you enjoy, and what your situation is. And it'll be really personal to every individual what positively impacts them and what negatively impacts them. But it's really useful to take a moment to think about that and just sit down and have a think about personally for you, what can influence your mood. So if we think of it as a bit of a balancing act or a scale, if we notice that we've got a lot of negatives that have been stacking up and tipping our scale, we should think about, okay, what positively impacts our mental health? What can I put in place to help balance that scale back a little bit more, add in some of those positives? So, for example, just as Grace had mentioned in her chat, that what we eat and how we look after our physical health, so our sleep, our diet, our exercise, can be really beneficial for our mental health as well, as they're really interlinked. So we know that that can really be positive for our mental health, is making sure that we're eating healthily, getting enough sleep, and getting some exercise, just as some examples there. And it might also be your hobbies that can boost your mood. And again, that'll be really different for everyone, whether that's reading, gaming, running, hockey, whatever it might be. And then on the negative side, maybe you're experiencing some stresses. So it could be, you've got some revision coming up, you've got exams, you've got a difficult situation at work. So it could be that we have stresses that are stacking up in that negative side. So it's good to be able to know what we can do on the positive side to balance that out. So leading on from that, these are some things we can do, we can add to our positive side to help balance our well-being. And they're called the 5 ways to well-being. So you might have heard of this before. The NHS use the 5 ways to well-being. And it was also devised by the Economic Society. So they know that it's a really efficient way of helping to boost our well-being. So this isn't a mental illness treatment, but it's something that we could all be doing every single day to help look after our mental health and our well-being. So if we just have a look at each of these, so learning, you may do lots of learning at school or at work or wherever you find yourself doing your main stint of learning. But it's also about finding something you really enjoy and you find interesting and investing a bit of time in that. So it could be setting yourself a challenge, and there could be a social media challenge that you really want to try. It could be discovering an old interest, trying a new hobby. And whatever it is, it doesn't just have to be sitting down and reading from a book. It could be, trying new recipes, trying a new craft, watching a documentary, listening to a podcast. And what this does is it gives us a sense of achievement and really, keeps our mind busy and a bit of fulfillment. So even if you only have 5 minutes to listen to a very brief podcast, or you've got a bit longer that you can dedicate, it's really good to think about what you can do to keep your mind active and learn about things that you find really interesting and capture your interest. Be active. So as we said, looking after our physical health is really important for our mental health. And when we're active, when we're moving our muscles, we get lots of chemicals released called endorphins, and they can actually really help to boost our mood. So we get a bit of a mood boost from being active. So it's about finding an activity you enjoy that's suitable for your level of fitness and that fits into your schedule. So it's not something that's a bit of a chore, it's something that we look forward to. And it absolutely doesn't have to be running a marathon or really strenuous. It can be as simple as doing a few stretches, maybe some yoga, it could be walking the dog. We've got a picture of someone doing a hula hoop there in their kitchen. I know that home workouts have become a lot more popular since the gyms have been closed. So whatever it is, just finding a way to move around. So I try and make sure that I get up from my desk and just do a few stretches, maybe even if it's just a walk around the block or into the garden while I'm working from home, ways to make sure that we keep being active in the day to get that feel-good mood booster. As well, we have taking notice. So this is about being really present. So similar to mindfulness, and there's lots of information on mindfulness online. So if you want to go and Google that, you'll find lots of different activities you could try and information. But it's being aware of the world around us. So that might include sitting and meditating, like our picture on the screen here, but it absolutely doesn't have to be, because we can be mindful in any activity during the day. Because we can use all of our senses just to really engage in whatever it is that we're doing. So if we're going for a walk, we can really listen out for the sounds we can hear. We can take in the smells, the sound, and the sights of nature, for example. We can really engage ourselves in listening to a piece of music, listening to the different instruments, the lyrics, and just being really present in that moment. And even when we're eating, if we're having a cup of tea or having a meal, noticing all the sensations and the flavours. And what this does, it just can remove a lot of our stress and make us feel more relaxed, as we're not thinking about what's happening next or what's happened in the past, but we're really engaging in the present moment. So that can be really, really helpful. We also have connecting. So this is building relationships, spending sort of social time with other people, giving people our attention. So this one might have been a bit trickier over the past year, since physical contact has been somewhat reduced. But the good news is that we don't have to be physically in the presence of someone to connect. So it might be that we're, playing sports, joining clubs, being physically close to our friends and family. But it could also be, giving someone a FaceTime or a text, as we can connect through technology, which is brilliant. It could also be reading your friend's favourite book or watching a film that they recommended to you, as it can make you feel more connected to them. So if you think about a way that you can connect throughout the day with your family at home or your friends, it's really useful to make sure we're building that into our week, to make sure we're still being sociable and connecting with those around us for our well-being. And the final one I have here is giving. So this could be doing something for a friend or a stranger, but it's also about giving to ourselves. So all that kindness we give out to other people and all of those helpful acts we do, we need to remember to also be kind to ourselves and remember how it's also useful to appreciate what we do for ourselves as well. So this could be the obvious things of giving, money or gifts or donating to charity, but lots of actions that we can do as well. So it's giving our time to someone. It might be, being there to listen to them if they need someone to chat to. Could be volunteering. So we've got a picture there of litter picking, for example. Or it could be as simple and as quick as giving someone a compliment or a smile when they walk past, as that can be really quick way to practice giving. And we know that this is really beneficial for the person receiving, but there's also lots of evidence that shows that it's brilliant for ourselves as well. So it's a double bonus, really, that the person who is doing the giving, we also get a feel-good factor. It's also really good for our own well-being. So you might already do lots of these things, as we've spoken through. You might have think of lots of different activities in your routine that already cover these different areas, which is fantastic. But sometimes it can be a good reminder to make sure that we keep doing them. So, for example, I know that I like reading fiction books, and that helps me to keep learning. But every now and again, I realise that I haven't picked up that book in a few days, and I need a bit of a reminder to do that again. So it's useful to think about how much time we have and what activities we could do. Say we only had 5 minutes, what could we do to cover all these areas? Or if we had a bit longer, what are some longer activities we could do? So again, those will be really personal to you, depending on what you like to do, about your hobbies, what interests you. And again, just building up a bit of a schedule can be really helpful. So it's about keeping these going every single day, really trying to find something we can do every single day that covers all these areas, as it's really good for our well-being. But most importantly, and as Grace touched on in her talk there, we really need to talk to someone about how we're feeling. That's the most important thing we can do for our mental health, is make sure that we're not bottling things up, we're letting things out, and whoever it is that you talk to, whether it's a parent, friend, coach, teacher, just sharing your thoughts with someone. And then on the other side is that you being there to listen. You could be that person that someone comes to if they need to talk. You could be that person that provides that outlet for them to share how they're feeling and what they're going through. And by doing that, by talking about our mental health and being there to listen to others, we can really normalise talking about our emotions and our feelings. And that then can encourage others to do the same, create those safe environments where we can all share and we aren't keeping things bottled up. And as well as talking to our friends and our family and those around us, there are lots of organisations we can go to find support, particularly if we're finding we are struggling or feeling unwell. So on the right there, we've got, Kovet, the Mix, their national services. We've got Youth Concern in Aylesbury that offer counselling. Youth Inquiry Service in Wickham also offer counselling. And these services support people up to the age of 25. We also have the Samaritans and the Childline available 24 hours a day. And so Shout, you can text the word Shout to the number on the screen. And that's 24-hour service as well. And if you're over 18, we have counselling at Buckinghamshire Mind you can access. And there's also the Talking Therapies NHS service that you can access. So there's always someone that you can speak to, and do reach out to these services. They're there for a reason. They're there to support us. And I just want to say thank you very much for being here and for listening. And I hope you can take something away. If you do want any more information, I've got our email and telephone number on the screen there. And if there is time, I'm happy to answer any questions. But thank you very much.
Alice, that was great. Thank you so much. Such useful tips and guidance on well-being. And it's such an important topic at the moment. Everyone is struggling. I've got some lovely feedback for you. Sharon has said she always feels so much better after some exercise. Joanne has a question for you. Have you seen an increase in mental health in young people during COVID?
Yeah, so we've looked at a bit of the research, and of course there's some that's still coming out. It's very early days, but we have found that there's been, particularly by Young Minds, some surveys that's been done that's shown that there has been a lot of young people struggling, particularly with concerns about going back to school, that the fun aspect of school might really be gone, the change of routines. And young people really just wanting someone there to listen to them. So we have found, looking at those surveys from Young Minds, that there does seem to be an increase. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. And I've got another question from Carla. How can I stay motivated to look after my well-being?
Yes, that can be really tricky, can't it? Particularly when we're feeling a bit rubbish, finding the motivation to do all those things that we know will be really helpful for us. But one useful tip is to think about the 5-minute rule, and that's we will agree with ourselves that we'll do an activity for 5 minutes, and if we want to stop after that 5 minutes, it's absolutely fine, and we can still say, well done for doing that. But we might find that after we get past that 5-minute point, we do feel like we can carry on. So that's a good way to just get started on an activity that we know would be helpful for us.
Absolutely. And I think it can be anything, Alice, isn't it? It could be a short walk, or it could be like steps, inside the house, or, it's nice to go out anyway to get some fresh air. Every little things, it does help, I think. So I've got another feedback. Thank you for sharing the 5 ways to well-being. Great idea to log them so you know that you are doing each of them. And another question for you, Alice. Do you think the increased amount of isolation for young people will have a long-term effect on them?
Well, I guess we don't know, really. We'll have to wait and see what the research shows. I think it will definitely change the way that we communicate. So I think there'll be a lot of change in more virtual, maybe work or lessons and things like that. So I do think that will change sort of the outlook. I hope it won't have a long-term effect, and I hope it won't have a long-term effect on all of us. Hopefully when things do start opening up again, that we can go back to normal.
Yeah, and I mean, we can hopefully once we can start traveling, I think that's something I'm missing big time. So I think we all can't wait to be on and to go to some nice places and treat ourselves. I think we have been doing great. I think the way we have tried to deal with it, and I think this is why supporting each other is so important. Young people really need that support, and that's why we have organized this event, Better Futures, for for young people, so they don't feel that you are not alone. Young people, I would like to say to you right now, you are not alone. We all are with you. Thank you so much, Alice. It was wonderful to have you today with us, and thank you so much for your time. And I wish you all the very best. And hopefully, we will work on other projects soon.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been lovely to be here today.
Thank you. Take care.